Missouri star wide receiver Luther Burton III leads off the prospects that need to make a statement in week 3 of college football for his 2025 NFL draft stock. We're going to explain this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. You know I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, man, and the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, where we bring you championship level content each and every single podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft DP. We are in the week 3, man. We have our week 3 preview, and we're going to have our classic segments, man. We're going to make a statement, pick a prospect, slate of games, who has to make a statement, right? Then we're going to talk about some second-tier guys that can make some plays and help their team elevate themselves to a win. And then we're going to talk about a couple of sleeper prospects overall. But DP, let's get this thing going.
LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. Make a statement, Keith. For me, I have two, but I'm going to start on the offensive side of the ball. To me, it's Luther Burton. And this is a guy, Keith, that we talked about earlier this week. Luther, when you're talking about the wide receiver right now, it's Tator McMillan, right? And then depends if Travis Hunter, if he stays at wide receiver, he's wide receiver too for some folks, including us right now. And one of the things that was said about Luther Burton coming into the season, he's going to play more on the outside. Well, Keith, about that. He hasn't. He's been majority in the slot for the first 2 weeks of the season, and I'm hoping to see in this game against Boston College, who has a good secondary, good defense. They're well coached. I'll get into some of their corners later, but they have the type of corners. They have an outside and a nickel corner that I think that could be a nice matchup for Luther Burton. But when I looked at his snap share, I was like, okay, they said he's going to play more, outside. And then looking at it, like he's played literally out of, I think 86%. Yeah, 86% of his snaps right now have come from the slot. He has 31 snaps in the slot. He has 3 snaps outside, playing outside wide receiver. So it's not really answering any of the questions that we had about Luther Burton coming in to the season. This is his first true test. He hasn't been tested yet all season. I think Luther Burton is a guy that has to come out, and I want to see a big performance from him. I want to see him make a statement, because at the end of the day, Tator put up 304 yards. We've seen Travis Hunter come off of 2 back-to-back 100 yards receiving games. Oh, by the way, Travis Hunter is also splitting snaps at corner. I need to see Luther Burton not just be the vocal point of this offense, but I need to see him have a strong performance in this game.
Yeah, I like that one, DP, and I like it because I was going to go with their quarterback, Brady Cook. I spoke about Brady Cook before on this podcast, and I'm going to say it again. The guy's a gamer. You watched that game against Ohio State in the bowl game last year, right? I think it was the Cotton Bowl. I think the game was 16-13, 13-10. It was a low-scoring affair, right? But you seen the grit that Brady Cook has. Like he's a tough guy, and for everything, he may not wow you with the best arm strength in the entire world and things like that, but just him being able to operate offense and get the job done, right? That is something that I value in quarterbacks, right? It's some of those kind of intangibles of things that you can't necessarily put a finger on, but you know it when you've seen it, right? And sometimes you just classify it as a gamer. But I'm with you on Luther Burton also. Like it's time to show up, right? You're talking about a big time matchup. I think Missouri's ranked number 6, Boston College ranked number 24. You're at Boston College, I believe. So it's a big time showdown with this game. And hey, you're supposed to be the locomotive of this offense, right? Like you're the most known name, first round pick. It's time to get those numbers. Big time players make big time plays in big time games, and that's what I expect for him to do. DP, but I am gonna pick my make a statement player. That's Jalen Milroe, DP. That's Jalen Milroe. We continue to talk about the top of this class being up and down, right? And I'm at the point where I'm ready for Jalen just to declare who he is as a quarterback, right? Because the USF game, he, the entire offense started slow, but he made plays with his legs, right? And my thing is this, that if he's dominant with his legs, then let him operate with his legs and figure that part out and go with it, right? Lean into it. But it seems like, because everybody now wants a dual threat quarterback, right? They want a quarterback that can run. They're probably about 5 years ago, right? It was still that same conversation, DP, within draft rooms, draft conversations, draft communities of, hey, I want my quarterback just to stand in the pocket. Remember that? That was a couple years ago by all of these draft gurus. Well, I just want my quarterback to stand in the pocket. Well, nobody wants that anymore. And so my thing is that it looks like Jalen is still in that thought process from time to time, where he's still like, hey, I need to stand in the pocket. And I'm like, I'm of the thought process, do whatever moves the football, right? Like, the name of the game is to score. I don't care how you score, just score. Yeah. And Wisconsin, I think they're 2-0. They play two, might be group of 5 teams, right? Nothing big, and both of them at home. But we know that they usually can have a tough style of football, right? Like, they can come in there, they can, grit things up, they can muddy some things up. And so this can be a big time situation where Alabama's going to have to come to play, right? You have to avoid an upset almost in this situation and get the job done. You played USF tough. Yeah, Western Kentucky, which you blew out. USF played you tough back-to-back weeks. And this is a question mark with the Wisconsin game, right? But y'all have to be hitting on all cylinders, because you would have to think that Wisconsin team, especially in the trenches, right, is probably more built to beat Alabama than what a USF team is. And so therefore, if that part is kind of neutral, then now you have to go to the skill position players. They have a young wide receiver core. I think the number one, the receiver that made the most plays against USF was the young freshman. I think the kid is 17 years old playing college football.
I think Ryan Williams or something like that.
Yeah, Ryan Williams. Yep. And so he's doing that. So I'm definitely going with Jalen Milroe to make a statement.
No, I agree with you, Keith. In Wisconsin, for one, the way that Wisconsin plays now, they run that air raid with bringing in Luke Fickell, with Tyler Van Dyke trying to recreate his draft stock, right? From where in 2021 he was viewed as a potential first round pick, and then the floor dropped underneath him, and he's never been able to regain that luster and that glitz and glamour to his name anymore. So you're talking about being able to knock off Bama, outplay Jalen Milroe. Like, he's coming in with something to prove. He's got a statement to make himself. So Milroe having to figure out, like you said, don't force yourself in the pocket. Like, if it's there, it's there. If it's not there and you got to get out and your receivers are covered, then be the X factor that you are, because that's what happens in the NFL now. Lamar Jackson, one of the worst offensive lines he's ever had against the Kansas City Chiefs. He led them in rushing. He was, of course, the leading passer. He was their engine. Josh Allen against the Cardinals, they were struggling. Right? They were down like 17-3 at one point. Josh scored 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing. And Josh, everybody knows Josh will do whatever it takes to get a dub. He'll Superman jump across the line of scrimmage. He'll do whatever it takes. So Milroe, tap into that. Get out of your head. Just play ball. Just be the difference maker that you are. And that's what I'm going to be looking for with him too. Keep one more defensive player. And for me, I got to go. And this feels like, it's SEC heavy to start, but Deion Walker, like, no sacks, like, a couple hurries through 2 weeks. If I remember correctly, you got Georgia this week?
Yep.
If you got Georgia this week, and Trevor Etienne is back. He led them in rushing last week with almost 80 yards rushing. They got the Nate Frazier kid, the young back, Tate Ratledge, that offensive line. I need to see you be a difference maker in this game. I need to see you help stop the run early on, and force Carson Beck to throw it more times than he would want to. Now, I'm pretty sure Carson Beck's comfortable. I'm not saying that, guys, but talking about handicapping a team, right? Like, taking away that run game, making them play left-handed and say, okay, you have to drop back all game. You got, I think it's Maxwell Hairston. I think it's his name, the cornerback, talented corner. Yep. Talented corner in the back end. Like, you got JJ Weaver, who's one of the stand-up edge rushers, who's got a great motor and like the arm length and everything else. Go out here, Deion Walker, be a difference maker on that interior defensive line. Stop the run on first and second downs. Keep them in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and then you allow that gives you the best. Like, I guess you could say, what's the phrase? The runway you need to be that guy, to be you. Because what's your best trait? Getting after the quarterback. You can't get after the quarterback if you don't stop the run.
Yep, I agree 100% with DP. Let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. And coming up next, we're going to talk about those second-tier prospects, right, that can make a difference in some of these matchups for week 3 of college football coming up next.
When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Also, LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, on this very podcast. Talk about things like the MVP preseason betting odds for the NFL and college football playoff and Heisman preseason betting odds. Well, we have something a little different for you now. Through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Guys, and if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's double your winnings for all of this Sunday's pre-game moneyline bets. Profit Boost started yesterday on Thursday. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Tier 2, second tier prospects to watch, Keith. And I got to go to and I think it's actually in the Bama-Wisconsin game. I'm going to Wisconsin cornerback, redshirt junior, redshirt senior, Ricardo Hallman, 5'10", 185 pounds. This young man knows how to ball, Keith. Like he's battle tested, battling Marvin Harrison Jr. in that Ohio State passing attack. And he had some good reps against Marv last year, too. He got good change of direction skills. He reminds me of Roger McCreary in terms of I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if he's 5'10". He might be 5'9". Like, he looks like when you saw him on the field covering Marv, there was a clear height discrepancy. Like, he looked substantially shorter, but he's got great leaping ability. He's super competitive, but he plays a lot of off coverage. And he triggers downhill very well. Like, talking about reading the quarterback's eyes, clicking and closing, and he's got good ball skills as well. I think this is a cornerback in a class that, I don't know, I just feel like the cornerback class is not in flux, but it's like a lot of smoke, right? Outside of like Will Johnson and Benjamin Morrison, it's like, who's next, right? If it's not Travis Hunter, right? If he switches the receiver, okay, that's a substantial hit to the cornerback group. So who comes up next? And I think you're talking about day 2 prospects at the cornerback position. Hallman has the size of a nickel, but he plays like an outside corner. So he gives you kind of that inside-out flexibility overall. This is a guy I think we need to keep our eyes on in a matchup. He might get matched up on the young 17-year-old. Can you, being the veteran, can you stop this young man from making the fast, big, explosive plays? Because, again, he does protect the deep ball well in that scheme, and make Jalen Milroe hold the ball. Allow I think James Thompson Jr., your 2-eye, to get into the interior gaps to get in the face of Jalen Milroe. This is going to be a big game for Ricardo Hallman. Yeah, this talented player. We're gonna see how this plays out for him, but definitely a tier 2 prospect we gotta keep our eyes on.
Yeah, I want to watch that matchup, right? Just watch those guys go at it. DP took one of my second tier prospects when you talk about Deion Walker, right? I was going to talk about him, but I agree with you every bit of it, and that's what we talked about, right? And that's why we did the scouting notebook, that a lot of his name and notoriety was attached to sack production, and if he can't get the sack production, then how is he going to stop the run? So I am very interested to see that matchup against Georgia. But DP, but stay in the SEC, man. You know what I'm gonna go with? I'm going to go with Ole Miss because they have quite a few guys that you're talking about second tier-ish, but guys that can elevate themselves. You talk about Walter Nolan. You're talking about Princely Human-Mealan, right? You're talking about Juice Wells. You're talking about Trey Harris, right? And then they had the running back Henry Parrish, who went for 100-something yards last year. So I'm tuning into this Ole Miss game, DP, for all of those guys, right? We talk about Jackson Dart a lot, but there's a lot of reasons to why that locomotive, which is called the Lane Train, baby, is rolling at this point. I'm going to be focused on the main two guys, and that's Walter Nolan and Princeman Human-Mealan, because right now, we compared Deion Walker, right? And when I watched the film, I had Walter Nolan graded higher than Deion Walker. And I want to see Walter Nolan make some plays because I can see it trend that way, right? When it comes to stopping a run and still getting pressure on a quarterback. Like, I think he can do both. And then also, DP, I would say this with the edge rush conversation. You can look at it, and if you watch the film just pound for pound, Princely is as talented as the top guys that we talk about. I just wonder if he's one of those names that just got stale throughout the process, right? Because I think this is the third, fourth year we've been talking about him. And you know how that goes, right? Like, people get so excited about you. And then that's why we always tell guys, come out just whenever you're the hottest, right? Just go ahead and come out, because at some point people are going to poke flaws in your game, and then they're going to overpoke, right? To where they're just tired and they feel like you capped out. So I'm going to be watching specifically for the Ole Miss trenches, DP. I want to watch those two guys and see those guys make plays.
No, I like that, Keith. I like that call out with Princely, because I mean he's been one of the better edge rushers. You know, I mean, I think we talked about that on a couple episodes ago this week. Like, the top of the edge rush class aren't getting it done. I just watched Abdul Carter in that defense on tape versus Bowling Green when I was watching Harold Fannin, and Carter was, getting pressure. He's getting back there. He's just not closing the deal on some of these sacks, and you expect that to change. But Princely's been one of the few guys that's actually gotten pressures and closed the deal on one or two of his sacks and opportunities as well. Keith, another second tier prospect, defensive heavy right now. Another corner in the Boston College game, against Missouri. Amari Jackson. This is a fluid mover, a guy that plays outside. Like, he's got great footwork. I remember watching a clip of him during summer training where they was doing one-on-one drills. The receiver tried to run a comeback, and you talking about running the route for him. Like,
I do remember that.
Hips, it was like they were in sync almost. Like, he dropped his hips as his receiver dropped his hips. He drove downhill, undercut it, and pick the ball off. But this is a guy that has not really allowed much at all. He's been targeted 7 times so far through 2 games, allowed 3 receptions for 38 yards total, and he's only allowed 3 yards after the catch, and he has a PBU on the season. No touchdowns, really not much of anything. And when I talked about Luther Burden, I want to see Luther Burden outside against this kid. I want to see, this is a matchup I'm looking forward to. I need them to give me that. Like,
you talked about Luther Burden lined up in the slot. You know what I'll be interested to see if they kick this guy inside and say, we'll go get him.
They won't. I doubt they will, because they have another corner, Kari Johnson, who I think he has a pick 6 on the season. Really technically refined nickel corner. He'll show you like face guarding, and then he just has a really good sense for the ball, reads the receiver's eyes, can turn and look for it. He's going to be able, he likes to take away specific leverage. I like guys like that. You know where your strengths are in your coverage, take away the other leverage and force that receiver or that quarterback to throw into the strength and into the teeth of your coverage. So that's what I said, they have some corners. I want to see Luther either against Kari, if he stays in the nickel, stays in the slot, or if he goes out wide, I want to see him against Amari because I think this is a statement game for both of those young cornerbacks. And one more offensive player, Keith. Kyron Drones, quarterback from Vatech, 6'2", 235, big arm. He's mobile, and I've said it. I said it this summer. He reminds me a lot of Jalen Hurts, I think, but he has a stronger arm to me. I think his arm is stronger than Hurts, where you like Hurts' arm is good, but it's like the actual deep ball pushing it 50, 60 yards on the line. Like Hurts doesn't have that type of arm, like the upper echelon, but he's got a good arm. I think this young man has a stronger arm. He can put more velocity and zip on the short to intermediate throws, as well as getting the ball down the field. And he's very similar to Hurts in terms of both are athletic. He's more of a power runner than the Lamar Jacksons, than even, well, Anthony Richardson's a little bit of both. Like he can run away from you or he can run you over. It don't really matter, right? But like Kyron Jones is built like that Jalen Hurts, Malik Willis, where it's like, I think Malik's more explosive, but just stocky build, strong frame. And you can run the QB zone read stuff, but he's probably a guy that you want to run QB counters, QB power, the veer, especially in the red zone, making the defense play 11 on 11. They got Old Dominion this week. They had a tough loss against Vanderbilt the first week. Even though he played well, his defense got lit up. And last week, played Marshall. They beat Marshall by like 17 points. He didn't have to do too much. But I want to see him kind of bounce back. This is a guy that could be, as they get in the ACC play, he could be one of those rising sleepers at the quarterback position.
Yep, I agree 100%. DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing. And what are we wrapping up, man, with those sleeper prospects, right? Those guys that nobody's talking about, we're going to wake them up and let them know. DP, we're talking about that coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million members that's active. Guys, do you want to play PrizePicks alongside comedian Drewski, rapper and podcaster Joe Budden, and MMA champion Sugar Sean O'Malley? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each and every week. One thing I love about PrizePicks is that they put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. Is guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Keith, you know what I'm about to tell? Man, guys, it's time to wake up on some of these sleeper prospects. Keith, a wide receiver out of TCU, right? And I know it might trigger some people hearing a big receiver from TCU. Oh, I don't want no more parts of that. Like, because they don't want to believe in Quentin Johnson. I still believe in QJ. I still believe QJ is going to get it done. But Keith, Savion Williams, 6'5", 200 plus pounds. He had a good game, 6'5", 225. He had a good week one against Stanford, 11 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown. He had a couple drops in that game, which would have, like, you just looked at a guy like trying to get it in and immediately turn into a runner. Last week, lower competition, 5 for 70, and everything like that. But when I watched the tape of him versus Stanford, I saw a kid that moved way better than the 6'5", 225, almost 30-pound wide receiver. Talking about acceleration, good burst, good open field speed. They use him in the flat manufactured touch game where, just quick little jet motion, throw it to him in the flats, let him get yards after the catch. But then he also has the ball skills for the jump ball, the fade ball in the red zone. A guy that knows how to settle in, find the creases in against zone, work around those zone droppers, spot droppers, find his spot, and he's such a big target. Then even after the catch, he's got short area quickness to make guys miss and get yards after the catch and after contact. I just think, again, and I believe he is a senior. Yes, he is. So I would expect if they keep feeding him the ball, he has another a good year, strong year to close out the year. Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl. I expect both of them, if they're not already looking at this kid, that they're going to be looking at this kid. And I just think that he's a sleeper wide receiver in this class that, again, similar to corner, it's a lot of smoke right now. The dust hasn't settled to know exactly how that picture is going to be painted come April 20 whatever when the draft kicks off. This is a guy I'm really high on from what I've seen from just the movement skills and the size. Yeah, I want to see them keep feeding him the rock because I think he can be a big-time riser in the 2025 NFL draft.
I like that, DP. I'm going to go with another wide receiver, man, and I'm going to go to wide receiver down here in Bayou Country, man. I'm going to go with Mario Williams, right? Mario Williams, I'm 99% sure he started his career over. Tulane. Mario Williams plays for Tulane University, transferred to Tulane from USC, but he started his career over at Oklahoma. Tulane is playing Oklahoma this week, DP. Tulane had a barn burner, right? That's what they call them, against Kansas State last week, right? Another Power 5 conference. They came down to Tulane. It was a tight game. Tulane's quarterback made some great plays. Mario Williams made some plays. But guess what? Mario Williams, slot wide receiver, can play outside. Small stature, right? Probably 5'9", 190 pounds, but an explosive playmaker, right? I told you this guy was at Oklahoma. He was at USC. Tulane is going to feed him the ball. Tulane is definitely going to feed him the ball against his old team in Oklahoma, right? And I'm watching this because we're just coming off a week. I think Oklahoma was that last week. Oklahoma played Houston, right? And head coach Brent Venables got up there and was like, this ain't it, right? We won, but there's nothing we should be proud of at this moment, right? And so you're talking about an Oklahoma team that it appears that they're still trying to find themselves, because even in a Temple game, DP, week 1, I don't think that they were necessarily moving at an elite level. I think that defense was playing better and kind of, made some plays to be able to set the offense up and things like that. So I'll say this, that if you get the Tulane team that was playing last week on Saturday, right, versus this Oklahoma team that we've seen the past 2 weeks that didn't improve, one, you could potentially have an upset alert, but two, watch out for Mario Williams to make a lot of plays, because this guy, he's one of those gadget, you could talk about your Kadarius Tonys. You can talk about, I don't want to say Jalen Waddles, because I'm not trying to put him in elite level, but just those movement pieces that can make some different plays.
No, 100%, Keith. On the season, he's got 10 catches for 252 yards receiving. He's averaging 25 yards per catch right now. You know what I mean? He has a long of almost 70 yards, 40, almost a 50-yard catch, last week. 47 was his long. And I agree with you. Like, the fact that I know Oklahoma, they were missing Andrew Anthony, Nick Anderson. So Jackson Arnold as a first-time starter, he hasn't had his full cast of weapons. And you could tell, he has not looked comfortable at all throwing the football. I think both of those guys should be back this week. We'll find out this Saturday on tomorrow. If this offense doesn't get going and Tulane shows up the way they did last week and can put up 27, 30 points against a team that put up 15 to 16 against Houston, this could be an absolute upset. And Mario, like that, and I think we talked about him right before the season. I was like, man, talking about just kind of a guy under the radar, leaving and going to Tulane. Nobody really remembered that he was, that he was still in college football. For a minute, I forgot until I looked at Tulane's roster. I was like, is that the same Mario Williams was at USC? I was like, oh, they're going to get him the football. He's going to be their best playmaker. And I mean, you think about the Malik Washington from Virginia last year. There's some those kind of smaller receivers who are stocky build, can do a lot of different things, bring the big play making ability, whether it's manufactured touches down the field. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that game because Oklahoma has to get it to, even though they're 2-0, they don't feel like they should be 2-0. And they need to figure that thing out, because if not, and if you don't score points, I think Mario Williams could be in for a big day. Granted, they got Billy Bowman. They got our guy Billy Bowman back there in that secondary. Yes, that could kind of limit some things over there. But yeah, I'm excited to see Mario Williams overall, man. It's going to be we don't have a lot of high profile matchups just yet in terms of team versus team, but there's plenty of prospects across the country, across the board that you need to be paying attention to, guys. That's why this is the sleeper portion of the show. You got to wake up to some of these guys.
Yep, 100% with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listen is greatly appreciated. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. And you can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like I like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts, get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayers. Guys, listen, have a great weekend. Enjoy college football, NFL football. Because, we come back Monday. We got game balls to hand out. Who's made some money, who fumbled the bag, and then our top 10 QB rankings. Is there going to be some guys rising and falling? I'm sure there will be. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow. Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.